Well, Steve, we said it on this show. We knew it was going to happen eventually with this squad, but it happened against a really good team in Alabama. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slasher U. I'm your host, Christian Rao, here with my co-host, Steve Beck. We're going to break down number 8 Alabama defeating the number 1 team in the country, University of Houston. And Houston, there were some moments so far this season that we saw some issues, and we were worried about them last time we discussed. And then we also said some really good things about the Crimson Tide basketball team. So I'm not really shocked in this one. However, this matchup was very good. It really came down to the second half with Alabama just driving, having a 44-34 advantage in that second half. That's what really put them over to get this victory. Steve, I know you were glued to this game. Take me through it and take me your thoughts on Alabama defeating number 1 Houston.
Yeah, I actually watched this whole game instead of the Army-Navy game, and that borders on blasphemy for me as a college sports fan. I mean, I have attended numerous Army-Navy games, in Philadelphia. I've gone to West Point and signed a bunch of games. I've been, to the Naval Academy for games. So for me to blow this off, I mean, I hold Service Academy athletic programs very near to my heart. So this was a good game. My intention was just to start off, see what was going on, and then switch over, and it just never happened. But as far as the game itself, and actually before I get to the game, Nate Oates, as of this moment, as we're doing this recording, has done the best coaching job at any school in Division I.
I can get behind that, but why do you say so?
Well, okay. Few teams had to replace as many impact starters as the Tide has. Alabama struggled with their shooting. Even with all of those impact players there, they struggled with their shooting. So Oates really had to not only replace these players, but he had to be selective about who he was bringing in through the transfer portal, focusing on the glaring need to improve the team's shooting. So is the shooting better? Yes, it's about 42.5%. It's not, I think, where Oates wants it, but it's better. They're averaging 19 3-pointers per game. Not 19, I'm sorry. They're averaging 9 3-pointers a game. They're outscoring their opponents by 17 points. They're out rebounding their opponents by more than 11 boards. And they're averaging, which I find really impressive when I know that plays to Nate Oates' heart, 16 points a game off of turnovers. You don't do that unless you have a coach that has a handle on being able to rotate all this new talent in with the existing returning talent that they already had, and to perform at the level that Alabama has. I mean, they were 10. I have no problem moving them up to 6 or 5. That's how well Alabama has played, and that's how well they played against the number 1 team in the country. And they've beat the number 1 team in the country twice in 2 months already. They beat North Carolina when North Carolina was number 1, and now they beat Houston.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see them move up to 6, depending on what else kind of losses we have, maybe even 5th, top 5, because we do still have some undefeated teams left in college basketball, and they deserve to be at the top right now because they are proving to really show off what they have. The only issue I had with this game for Alabama, now obviously they weren't as bright in the first half. They did really turn around that second half, but they did have 15 turnovers. Now, they scored some points off of Houston's turnovers, which was fantastic. But if they can find a way to limit their own turnovers, this team is going to be dangerous, not just in games against Houston, but throughout the SEC and when we get farther into the tournament play and march way farther down the road. But this team is going to be really dangerous. So they can find a way to get that settled out. Obviously, I'd like to see them shoot a little better. They were in the 40 percentiles for field goal range, and they shot okay from 3-point land, but as you said, they're already averaging 9 threes per game. They only got 7 in this one. They're going to do better. And obviously they found a way to win against the number 1 team in the country. So not much to say bad about this Alabama team. However, there's no rest for the wicked with this Alabama team. They got Memphis on Tuesday night. Then they go and play Gonzaga. I mean, this schedule gets tough for them before they hit SEC play. Oates he's got it lined up for him. And if you got your cards on the table and you think he's doing the best job as a coach, I'd like to see if he can run the table all the way up until SEC play with only 1 loss on his belt. And I think he might be able to do that, but there's some tough matchups ahead for him. and we'll see if he can do it, Steve.
Yeah, and those turnovers, I mean, let's tip our hat to Houston. I mean, if they're not the best defensive team in the country, they're really, really close. So Houston forced those turnovers. It's not like it was them sloppy play or trying to run and gun up and down the court. Houston, especially in the first half, but it's a very swarming kind of defense they have. I mean, they forced those turnovers, but it's the resiliency in this Alabama team that just has me just mesmerized. I mean, they're not afraid to go toe to toe with number one teams in the country. If they get behind, and they were behind by double digits in the North Carolina game and here in the Houston game, they were down by 15, I think, with about 16 minutes left, in the second half. So they had to fight their way back. But this is a team that just is going to keep getting better because, again, they're still learning how to play with each other. And what I found really interesting is that if a player struggles on the offensive side, they seem to focus their attentions even stronger playing shutdown defense. Brandon Miller would be, in a case, of a case like that. One guy we have to mention here, and I know that we haven't touched on Houston, the number one team in the country. We probably should talk more about them. This is a statement game for Alabama, so that's why the focus there
certainly
is Noah Clowney. He's a beast. He gave a defensive and rebounding clinic on national TV. Okay, I mean, the number one announcing team basically was there for this game. And he's only a freshman. I mean, he's learning how to be an elite player at the Division I level. So it's something that you look at this Alabama team and you just say, wow. And if they're going to, and I'm sure Kelvin Sampson is like banging his head against the wall because he doesn't want to see performances like this.
Sure.
I mean, the Kent State game, you could write off and say, well, Kent State.
Yeah, we've seen it multiple times at Kent State so far this year. So
yeah, exactly right. They've shown, okay, so it's that. But now you've got a team that potentially you're facing in the NCAA tournament, theoretically. Okay. And if they're going to do that kind of job on you, they've got to change their approach. I thought that their shooting would get better as the season progressed. And I would counter that Houston shooting has gotten worse. They were 3 for 14 to open their half. The first 14 shots, they only made 3. And then they missed 9 of their last 11 down the stretch. If you're going to be an elite team, a number one team in the country, you cannot shoot like that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. All right, so we saw our first loss from Houston here. I've already heard some of your concerns about this. We got to see them. And I'm saying it like it's going to be a bad thing. We get the pleasure of seeing them take on number 3 Virginia, who's probably move up to number 2 and the rankings come out here on Monday. Mm-hmm. Saturday on ESPN2, 2:00 Eastern. We're going to get Houston at Virginia. That's going to be a really tough game. Houston's got North Carolina A&T before that, so hopefully that's a good game for them to shake off the cobwebs from the loss against Bama. You got to have a lot of concerns here. Not only the Kent State game with the concerns of the shooting there, I don't think they played very good against St. Mary's either in the beginning of the month. They didn't look good in that one as well. They didn't look bad against Bama. Bama just outplayed them at the end of the game. I got that, but now they're going to go against the University of Virginia, who has been absolutely red hot all season. Not only are they playing the defense we all know and love of the Cavaliers, they're also able to shoot the ball this year. So I have a lot of doubts for Houston. And I'm not saying that we're going to get a North Carolina team that went from number 1 in the country to unranked. I'm not saying that by any means, but I wouldn't be shocked, Steve, if we saw 2 losses from this team in a matter of weeks, with the loss to Alabama and then another loss to Virginia.
The difference is that Houston just plays another level defensive style. And while the American Athletic will have some interesting things, I think, Tulane's going to be interesting. they're really not going to be facing the level of competition that they have faced in the early going. And credit to Houston for scheduling these teams, so they can sort of experiment a little bit once they get in the conference play to try to maybe find a better matchup as far as shooting or whatever that would go. But yeah, no, I'm really concerned. I mean, you know, there's this the old thing, you can't fix stupid. In college basketball, quite often you can't fix shooting. If you're not shooting well early, you may not be shooting well later in the season unless you do change some players around or give them different roles or bring people in off the bench that might be starting now. I don't know what the approach would be. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, Virginia plays a similar style of defensive basketball where it can be absolutely smothering. The difference is Virginia is scoring. I have to like double check the scores. I mean, I'm older, so I have to make sure it's not like my trifocals or anything looking at the score wrong. Virginia is scoring points and playing that kind of defense. So that's going to give Houston all kind of problems, I think.
Yeah, University of Virginia has 4 players averaging over double digits in points. They're shooting almost 50% from the field. They're 2-0 against AP Top 25, and Houston only has that one loss to Alabama with ranks. So right now, Houston's got to show me. And I think that's just really got to be the case. Mm-hmm. Houston's got to show me here on Saturday against UVA. I think that's what's going to happen. I think I'm leaning towards Virginia to win that game, but we'll see what happens moving forward. Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. What do you think about the Houston game and Alabama? Is Alabama for real? Do you think we're giving them too much hype, or you really like what Oates is doing with that squad? About Houston, are you concerned about the number one team? Well, the former number one team in the nation. Right. And what do you think about that game coming up against UVA? Let us know in the comment description below. And thanks for watching SlasherU.